Hi guys, welcome to today's painting. This is Paint with Lovejoy. Thanks so much for joining me today. In this video, it is a full length and it can be found on my Patreon page and my Paint with Lovejoy page. So you're going to get real-time narration and step-by-step guidance with this. If you would like to further support Paint with Lovejoy, please check out the various outlets. And for more in-depth courses, please check out Paint with Lovejoy. As always, share this with your community. All right, guys, this is going to be another fun painting today, a tribute to the wild things. And grab your supplies, transfer your traceable to your surface, and as always, make sure you take your progress photos. This one is the full length version, so we'll be going in real time. Feel free to pause the video as much as you need. We are going to be using the middle flat brush, and we're working on a lot of small controlled brush strokes and blending in this painting today. So we're going to be using yellow plus a tiny amount of red, and then we're going to add a little bit of white to it. Now, as you're making your mixture, a tiny amount of red will go a long way. And we're kind of coming up with kind of a warm, peachy color, kind of a salmon color. If yours is a little bit different than what mine is on the screen, totally okay. As you go through this painting, again, we're going to be focusing on our brush control, working in small areas, and some of this kind of subtle color mixing and subtle blending. So if you are a first-time painter, I do recommend that maybe do some of my easier videos first, and then when you want to work on your blending and brush control, then give this video a try. So with this color, you can see where we are filling it in on one of these characters, and we are kind of going over those traceable lines. We will go over them with a black paintbrush, or I'll be using an India ink brush pen at the end of this painting. You are more than welcome to switch out colors, make this your own. I'm proud of you for getting creative, and it's more important that you paint rather than being perfect. So here you can see where we grab some yellow and we're placing it right on top of our first color, and this kind of warms it up and gives a slight highlight area to it. And as we're doing this little bit of blending, we are using light pressure. So as you're doing this, if you do find that your brush is shaky, exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas. And this is something that gets easier and better with more practice. So now we're going to do a mixture of blue and white. Start with that white, add a little bit of blue to get to kind of a light blue shade. And again, if your color is a little different than mine, or you choose a color completely different than what we're using on the video, completely okay. All right, and again, be kind to yourself as you're going through this process. This gets easier with more and more practice, and pause this video as much as you need to. I am using that middle flat brush. You are more than welcome to use the small pointy brush if you need a little bit more control, or maybe that's your favorite brush. Most of the things that I do in my videos are merely recommendations, but you have permission to adjust and shift as needed. So we've laid our base blue color on here. We're going to go in with a bit of a highlight. We're going to grab some white. And you can clean the brush if you want to. Sometimes that helps with a little bit of blending, or if you just grab that white and place it right on top, just kind of try different things, see what works for you. And I'm placing them in the areas that I want them, and then wiping off the excess paint, and then going back with that light pressure to blend that white paint into the blue. And you can already see where it is changing to a super light blue. It's no longer white. This is called wet on wet blending. And sometimes it's nice just to do this directly on your canvas. It's good practice. And again, these are small controlled brush strokes. So take your time as we go through this. So going back to grabbing that middle blue color, because we forgot a little, the little details on this guy's foot and his little nails. And I did switch to the pointy brush for this to be able to make smaller little brush strokes in these tiny little areas where the claws and the toes are. So again, feel free to switch back and forth between the brushes with whatever is comfortable for you. And again, remember to breathe. You're doing a great job. I tell all my students the only way to fail at painting is to not paint at all. So the fact that you're going through this process, you are already successful. And like I said earlier, you just get better and more comfortable with more and more practice. So I do recommend pausing the video, take a progress photo. We're going to move into a white plus a little bit of yellow, kind of a lemony yellow color. And again, just kind of play with starting with that white first and then adding small amounts of your pigment to make the color. And the more that you mix your colors, the more comfortable the process gets. And you always want to add small amounts of pigment and start really light because you can always add more to go a little bit darker. Again, take your time through this. This is your time away from the rest of your life. This is time for your brain to just kind of relax and decompress. And you are learning as you go through this process. So we're using this light yellow color for the face of this character and just filling it in. And you'll notice that a few times that I actually have to mix my color 2 or 3 times as I go through this. And if you're doing that as well, it's just excellent practice. And the more that you mix your colors, the more your brain's going to go, oh, it's that much pigment with this much white to get to the color that I need. So here you can see where I grabbed a tiny, tiny amount of black and mixed it with that yellow and white mixture. Again, a tiny, tiny, tiny amount goes a long way to make this kind of yellowish gray shade. If yours happens to be darker or you end up adding too much black, clean the brush and then try making that mixture again with fresh paint. All right, and we kind of placed it on the top and bottom of this character's face. And now we're going to add a little bit more black just to go a touch darker for where the hairline is and the chin. Again, to kind of get these shadows in there to create this 3D aspect on a flat 2D surface. And I apologize for the autofocus going in and out. I thought I had set this when I went to record the video, but obviously I did not. So again, apologize for the focusing option on here. So again, we put that darker in there, go back and clean that brush. And with just a moist brush with a little bit of water on there, you're going back and kind of softening the line of the darker color into the lighter color. If you need to, you can go back to that yellow and white mixture and kind of do a little bit of blending. A lot of times with painting, it's a back and forth. So it is okay to go back to that original color and blend it into the darker color. Again, with practice, this gets easier and more comfortable. All right, so we're going to clean that brush. We're going to go back to that first kind of peachy color. So if you have some left over from the first color that we made, you can use that. If you need to make it again, yellow with a little bit of red and then add some white. And we're going to fill in the nose for this character. And kind of a recommendation that one of my students in my camps gave was that she liked to watch the video all the way through and then watch it a second time and then paint along on the second time. And she said it made her process a lot easier and a lot more fun. So just something to kind of pass along if you feel like doing that. So here you can see again where we added a little touch of black to that mixture to go a little bit darker so we can put some shading in. And when you're making that mixture, a little bit of your darker pigment goes a long way. And we placed that darker pigment where we wanted it. And then I cleaned the brush and wiped it off so I could go back in with the damp brush and just do a little bit of blending. This is, like I said, a good painting to do a couple of times so that way you get more and more comfortable with these smaller brush strokes. So taking that same dark shadow and adding it to some of the first areas that we painted. If your paint is still wet as you're adding this, you can do a little bit of blending. If it's already dry, just kind of place this on top of it as a second layer to give a little hint of a shadow. If you want to skip this step or any of the steps, go right ahead and do that. Again, keep small, almost like little dabbing brush strokes here to do some of that blending and also to just apply the pigment. All right, so a good place to pause the video, take your progress photo, and we're going to be moving into a light gray, and that is going to be white with a little bit of black. And you'll see on mine that I actually add a little bit of red to my mixture. So I've got the white right here. I'm going to add a little touch of red, and then I'm going to add a little touch of black. And this is going to make my gray a warm gray with that little hint of red in there. So if you would like to do that with yours, go right ahead and do that. If you want to stick with just gray, just basically do your white with a little bit of black added to it. And go from there. So again, feel free to adjust this shade of gray that you like. I do like adding that touch of red to it because it kind of warms it up, makes it a little bit more inviting. But again, full permission to do what you want with your painting. So here we're actually going to be taking this character in a few different sections. I am painting on watercolor paper, so that actually means that my paint is drying pretty quick because it is being absorbed by the paper. And sometimes you have to adjust your painting style based on the tools that you have. So if you have fast drying paint, you have to paint a little bit faster, or you have to paint in smaller sections. If you are doing what I'm doing and you're painting on watercolor paper, it's going to absorb the moisture of the paint pretty quickly. So to be able to do your blending, I'm going to be painting in smaller sections. Again, whatever you need to do to adjust to the tools and the supplies that you have when you are painting, please do that. So now I'm going to grab a little bit of white, a little bit lighter, and add that to the mixture. And again, I'm adding a little touch of red to mine, but we're going a little bit lighter and just going to fill in that space and kind of keep filling in this character. Then we're going to go in with some more of the direct white for some highlights, and then a few darker gray areas to make it a little bit more of the shading. We are still working with our brush control and placing these in a few specific areas, and with our brush control, blending it in with small little brush strokes. Again, this is not a race. Here you can see where I placed the white in there, and then just kind of blending it into that base light gray. As you go through this painting, you're observing where I'm placing some of these colors, and you're doing mimicking that to the best of your ability at home. Again, this does not need to be perfect, and this is just merely a guideline to help you as you go through your painting process. I am a big supporter of trusting your instincts and making the painting your own. If you need to at any point, pause the video, take a screenshot, and then zoom in closer to some of the areas where I was painting to observe what was happening. Again, painting is not about being perfect, but just kind of learning to look at your world, learning to get more comfortable with your tools and your perspective. And with practice, you get more and more comfortable. So here I was making that light gray again to kind of continue filling up this character. And again, go at your pace for the tools that you have. And even if you're mixing your colors and they turn out a little bit different each time, that's okay. Variety in your painting is a nice thing. And the more that you paint, the more comfortable some of these color mixtures will become. And it'll actually be a little bit more like second nature where you don't think about it too much. Remember to breathe. You're doing great. And do remember to look back at those progress photos and be proud of yourself for the progress that you make on each painting. I'm a huge fan of encouraging people to paint on a regular basis, more for the stress relieving benefits of the creative process rather than being perfect. All right, so here you can see where I'm adding more white to that mixture. We're going to go in a little bit lighter gray and a little bit lighter than what you were using, even if your color doesn't match with what I'm doing on screen. So whatever your mixture is, add some white to it to go a little bit lighter in these areas. And then we'll do a little bit more shading on top of it. So moving right along, just filling up the space, enjoying the fun characters of this iconic childhood book. And again, just kind of setting a tribute. This was a viewer request and just helping it make it easier for you guys to paint this at home. All right, and I do recommend that you look at your painting from a distance of 5 to 10 feet away, assess it from there. Do you need to go back and maybe add a highlight? Do you need to go back and add a shadow? Trust your instincts as you're going through the process. So going in with that lighter gray, filling in the last little details of those feet. When we do the outlines on this, it kind of gives it that more of that cartoon vibe, and it does kind of help clean up some of the areas and bring a little bit more focus into your drawing, into your painting. And just filling in the last few little details on there with some of that white, putting some highlights on there. Right now it just kind of looks like a gray blob, but like I said a moment ago, it is going to come together when we put the other details on there. So do take that progress photo. We're going to switch over to yellow paint. We're going to put the crown on. We'll be filling in the eye colors for our main characters. I believe the little staff that he is holding will get filled in. And again, if you want to change colors or do something different here, go right ahead and do that. These are pretty small spaces. So again, if your brush is kind of shaky, exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas and fill in the space. One of the nice things about acrylic painting is should you paint anything that you don't like, let it dry, you paint right on top of it again. Now we're going to move into white. There we go. We're going to move into white. We're basically going to put a base on here. These are his pajamas. And we're going to fill in the pajamas with white just to kind of get that base color on there. Then we're going to take a little bit of a light gray, place it in a few areas where we want the shadow to be, wipe off the excess paint of the brush, and then go back and blend that light gray into this base white color. This is getting you great practice and comfort with your brush control, with your color mixing, with the pressure. And the only way to get better at these things is with practice. So super light gray. We're going to start with that white. Tiny, tiny, tiny amount of black goes a long way to make this light gray. And again, we're just placing it in a few areas, kind of where the armpit is, the left-hand side of the body, where the arm and where the hand is holding that staff, the bottom of the feet, and then wipe off that brush, wipe off that excess paint, and then with just the damp bristles of your brush, go back and with light pressure, we're going to take this gray color and blend it into the white. It is okay to take your time, kind of get lost in the process, enjoy this. And the more that you enjoy it, the more likely you are to kind of keep painting and also be proud of your efforts. All right, taking shape nicely. We've got a few more spaces to fill in. We're going to grab a medium blue or a medium purple, sorry. We're going to make a medium blue, and that is going to be white with a little bit of blue. And then I want you to add a tiny amount of red to it. A little bit of red's going to go a long way. And we're kind of creating a medium purple color. If you have a tube of purple and you prefer to use that, or you wanted a different shade of purple, go right ahead and do that. Use that. All right. I don't remember all the character names, but I know the main character here is Max. I can't remember the other characters. So feel free to leave a comment and let me know what they are. It's been a while since I have read this book. I did enjoy the movie. Super, super cute. And I loved the imaginative quality of this. So making a really, really light blue that was white with a tiny, tiny amount of blue. It's almost more white than blue. We're going to fill in the horns of these other characters. Um, and then we've got 2 more spaces to kind of fill in and then put some grass in there, and then we'll be doing some outlines. Again, I'm really proud of you guys for painting. Enjoy the process. We're going to go a little bit darker blue. So just add a touch more blue to your mixture. And at the bottom of these horns and on the left-hand side, just adding a touch to give a little bit of shading. Again, pause the video, take a screenshot, and zoom in if you need a closer look as to where these colors are going. And a lot of stuff that you learn in my videos, please feel free to take those lessons and move into other videos, move into more challenging paintings from other teachers, and keep pushing your skills. That is the only way we get better at anything, is with practice and pushing your skills. All right, so we're going to go into a dark gray. So that'll be black and then adding a touch of white to it. And the bottom of the feet on the left-hand side character, and then this hair, the mane of hair. And as you're doing the hair, these are little dash marks, and kind of start at the mane, at the face, and move your dash marks out, radiating out from the face. And it creates a nice movement, and it gives more of the indication that this looks like hair. So these tiny little dash marks that overlap each other, think of each dash mark as a strand of hair moving out in the direction that it would flow from the face or from the costume. Again, if you want to switch out colors, maybe use brown or purple or a different color for the hair, go right ahead and do that. I do enjoy seeing all the pictures that people send of the paintings that they've done of my videos, and I like it when they change and add their own personal touches, and I just like seeing that you guys are painting. So definitely send me photos or tag me in your social media posts so I can see them. All right, almost done with the characters. We've got one more. We're going to put a highlight, and then we've got the face of Max to finish. There we go. Here's the highlight. So just taking that white, placing it on top of there, wiping off the excess paint, and then moving that into that darker gray. Hopefully by the time you are done with this painting, you will feel a lot more confident in your smaller brush strokes and in your pressure. All right, so it looks like we're going to move to the green next, and then we'll go back in and put the colors for Max's face on there. So for the green, I like to start with the white, add a little bit of yellow, and then start adding a little touch of blue. Get to the shade of green that you like. You can add a little bit more blue to make it kind of a cooler green. You can add a little more yellow to make it a warmer green. If you have a tube of green that you like, you can use that. And we're going to be filling this on the ground that these characters are walking on. And maybe here, play with some different brush strokes. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to fill in the entire space. You can switch between the medium flat brush and the pointy brush. Again, this is just giving them a ground to walk on and gives a bit more of that illustrative vibe. If you happen to paint over those toes, you can go back and make that blue and paint over it on the green. Again, adjust for wherever you are at in today's painting. So now adding a bit more blue to that mixture, painting right on top of the first set of colors and getting some shadows for what these characters would be casting and creating on the ground. And this is one of the things that kind of helps give this illusion of a 3D space, a 3D object on this flat 2D piece of paper or on the flat 2D canvas that you are painting on. All right, and now going back to the pointy brush, the last space that we have to fill in is the face of Max, and that's going to be white. We're going to add a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of red to basically make it a really, really light pink. You could add a touch of yellow to it to warm it up. You could use a raw sienna if you want to do a different skin tone. You could use a burnt sienna to go a little bit darker. Feel free to adjust the color of the face for your painting to what you want. And then adding a touch more red and kind of where the cheeks would be, adding a little bit more of a darker color on the face to give a little bit of slight contouring. Again, does not have to be perfect, and you can always pause the video and take that screenshot and zoom in to see more of the details. And either way, pause that video, let this fully dry before you move into this next step. And we're going to be using either a pointy brush and black paint. I'm going to be using one of my favorite tools, an India ink brush pen, and it is a lot like a brush, so it's got flexibility in the bristles, so I will be playing with the light pressure, but I kind of like the brush pen because I don't have to keep grabbing paint. But if you are using a pointy brush and using paint, keep going back every couple of brush strokes, grab more of your black pigment, and we're doing our outlines again. Basically doing all those traceable lines one more time on here. Again, if you're kind of shaky at this point, exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas. Feel free to rotate the canvas to make it easier to make some of these lines. We are overlapping some of the paint a little bit. That's why you want your paint to be fully dry before doing this step. So that way the black can lay on there on top of it nicely. And again, this gives it that nice kind of illustrative vibe with this outline. If you do not want to do the outline or you just want to do certain parts of the outline, adjust for what you need. If you're looking to just do a few sections of the outline, I would recommend outlining the face details on all 3 characters, and then your call how much else you want to add to the other areas. And here you can see where I'm just kind of moving, making those little dash marks for the hair. It just kind of gives a bit more definition and kind of a nice personalized style. It is okay to break up your painting into a couple of sessions. Maybe you only have 45 minutes to paint or a half hour, get as much as you can done. Bookmark your spot on the video, and then maybe the next day you pick up and do another 30 minutes of painting. That is completely okay to do. Just make sure you go back to your painting and actually finish it. And that way that kind of helps build your confidence as you move into your other future paintings. But you do not have to complete this start to finish in one setting. All right, looking good. Really proud of you. Pause the video, take your progress photo. We just have a few more details that we're going to add, and then we are done with the painting. So great job today. All right, so we're using that pointy brush. We're going to use yellow paint to kind of put some teeth in on both of the big characters. And literally these teeth are just using that super light pressure and almost making little triangles or just little dash marks for the teeth. If you want to outline them later, you can. If you don't want to add this, you don't have to. If you prefer to use white or a different color, go right ahead and do that. And again, anything that you might want to add to your painting to make it more unique, more of your style, go right ahead and do that. I do recommend, if you feel inclined, to paint this a second or third time, maybe in a week or a month or a year from now, and then compare that to your first painting and see how much you have grown and how much you have learned. That's a nice way to kind of gauge our learning curve. So now we're actually going to grab some white, a few little highlights in a few areas. We're going to put little dots in the eyes. And for the dots, pause the video, take that screenshot and zoom in closer. But we are putting the dot in a very similar place on each eyeball. This is called the catch light. So no matter how many characters you have that you're painting, the catch light would be kind of the same for all of them. And then I just went back with a little bit of black. I didn't like that catch light, filled that in with black, and then I'll redo the catch light. So nothing wrong with going back and adjusting or repainting certain areas. So great job today, you guys. Really well done on your brush control, your mixing, and your blending. Don't wait too long to do your next painting and take these skills into your next painting. Until then, cheers.